Anyway, after we're done here, and Brendan, you're done with Brendan, 1 p.m. Ambassador Nebenzia, the permanent representative of the Russian Federation and president of the Security Council for the month of October, will be here in this room to brief you on the work of the Security Council for the month of October. This morning, the Secretary General spoke at the high-level meeting on the 25th anniversary of the Fourth World Conference on Women. He said that women and girls are bearing the brunt of massive social and economic impact of the pandemic. 25 years after Beijing, we are facing a women-led recession as women employed in the informal economy are the first to lose their jobs, he said, adding that unless we act now, COVID-19 could wipe out a generation of fragile progress towards gender equality. The Secretary General said that the pandemic demonstrates that we urgently need strong push to meet the unfulfilled promise of Beijing, ensuring that there is equal representation of women in leadership positions and everywhere decisions are taken that impact people's lives. He encouraged all member states to make concrete, ambitious commitments to women's leadership and full participation and urged to step up support for the grassroots civil society organizations that have always been at the vanguard of the women's rights leadership. And on that note, tomorrow, Friday, I will be joined by the heads of UN Women, UNAIDS, UNFPA, UNICEF, and the Deputy Director General of UNESCO. They will be here to speak to you about the Education Plus initiative, empowerment of adolescent girls and young women in sub-Saharan Africa. I will be in the room. Natalia Kemia, the Executive Director of UNFPA, will be in the room, and the rest will join us virtually. Also this morning, during a high-level meeting on the Central African Republic, the Secretary General said that the coming period will be decisive for the country. Authorities and all national stakeholders have a historic responsibility to ensure the proper conduct of forthcoming elections, he added. The Secretary General highlighted the progress of the implementation of the political agreement in areas such as legislative reforms, as well as extension of state authority across the country. He also noted the security situation has improved in some areas. However, Mr. Guterres expressed his concern about the significant number of human rights violations and breaches of the peace agreement. These attacks must stop immediately, he said. He called upon authorities to redouble their efforts to bring the perpetrators to justice, protect civilians, and strengthen measures to address violence against women. Turning to the humanitarian situation, the Secretary General noted again this year the humanitarian community has received less than half of the funds required to meet the needs of the 2.6 million people in precarious situations. Let there be no mistake, he added. He said, lasting peace will not be possible without compliance with the agreement and without real progress on the development front. And the UN Interim Force in Lebanon, otherwise known by its acronym UNIFIL, welcomes today's announcement of a framework agreement to launch negotiations between Lebanon and Israel on maritime and land border demarcation between the two countries. The UN mission stands ready to extend to the parties all the support at its disposal and facilitate efforts towards a resolution of this issue and move forward with blue line demarcation. Under Security Council Resolution 1701, UNIFIL is supporting any agreement between the two countries aimed at reinforcing confidence in getting the parties to recommit to the sanctity of the blue line and the broader border demarcation process. I also expect to have some more language from the Secretary General on that later. And turning to Sudan, our humanitarian colleagues inform us that the number of people impacted by the unprecedented floods affecting the country now stands at 860,000 and continues to increase. More than 120 people have also died. More than 400 schools and thousands of health facilities have been damaged, compromising education and health services. Nearly 30,000 latrines have collapsed, which could hinder the prevention and treatment of potential disease outbreaks. We and our partners are continuing to support the government's response efforts to help those in need. So far, we have reached more than 400,000 people. The lack of funding is posing a serious challenge, especially for the health sector as well as the areas of water, sanitation, and hygiene, for which aid is critical to respond to both the floods and the current pandemic. And speaking of the pandemic, I have an update from India, where the UN team, which is led by our resident coordinator, Renata Desalian, is looking to address the COVID-19 pandemic. The UN team continues to stand with India as it battles the unprecedented challenges of more than 6.3 million cases of COVID-19. The World Health Organization has helped trace 10 million case contacts and supplied more than 1 million test kits. WHO and UNICEF has trained nearly 4 million frontline health workers, and UNICEF has also reached 40 million children through education initiatives and 5 million women and children with essential health care. For its part, the UN Development Program distributed nearly $1 million pieces of safety equipment to 8 health departments across the country. The agency also provided nearly 500,000 safety kits and 60 million kilos of food to 200,000 sanitation workers. A World Food Program mobile app has helped link 8 million people to public food distribution system, and to support businesses, the UN Industrial Development Organization and the ILO are providing support to medium and small businesses. And to help women impacted by violence, UN Women has trained 100,000 people to help women impacted. And today, our colleagues from the UN Refugee Agency have announced that Marilyn Vergaza Perez from Colombia is this year's laureate of the Nansen Refugee Award. As the Caribbean Regional Coordinator for the Renacer Foundation, she has devoted more than 2 decades helping Colombian nonprofits reach its goals of eradicating sexual exploitation and abuse of children and adolescents. Founded 32 years ago, the organization has helped over 22,000 child and adolescent survivors of commercial sexual exploitation and survivors of other types of sexual and gender-based violence. The Nansen Refugee Award honors outstanding service to people who have been forcibly displaced. In the announcement of this year's prize, Filippo Grandi, the head of UNHCR, says Marilyn's unwavering dedication has saved the lives of hundreds of refugee children and restored their hopes for a better future. And we in the Secretary General join in congratulating her. I was asked yesterday about Malaysia's ratification of the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons, and I can say that we're aware that the Foreign Ministry of Malaysia signed the country's instrument of ratification on 30th September. It was subsequently received by the UN. As of now, 46 states have ratified the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons. According to the provisions, the treaty will enter into force 90 days after the 50th instrument of ratification, acceptance, and approval of or accession has been deposited with the UN. The Secretary General has repeatedly said that he looks forward to the entry into force of the treaty, which, once in force, would constitute a pillar of the disarmament regime. The Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons reflects the desire of a large number of states to achieve a world free of nuclear weapons, the UN's highest disarmament priority. And today is one of these international days that I care more and more each year. It is the International Day of Older Persons. It will highlight the role of the healthcare workforce in contributing to the health of older persons, with special recognition of the nursing profession and a primary focus on the role of women. In his message for the day, the Secretary General emphasizes that older people must have a priority on our efforts to overcome COVID-19. He says that we seek to recover better together. We must make concerted efforts across the decade of healthy aging to improve the lives of older persons and their families and communities. The Secretary General stresses that more than ever, we must listen to their voices, suggestions, and ideas to build more inclusive and age-friendly societies. Lastly, we are delighted to thank Grenada and Honduras, who have both paid their regular budget dues in full. It takes up to 124. And to add to good news, I think we're on track for some sort of a stakeout after the Libya event next week. It's like Christmas for you, James Bays. Coffee and what else? What? You can't have one without the other, that's for sure. All right. If you have a question, indicate it to me. James.
Follow-up from yesterday. Russian Federation presidency has started. You said you'd try and get some idea on the arrangements of the return to the Security Council from the Secretariat and from your health people.
It's not completely Christmas for you. I completely forgot to ask that question. But I'm sure Fedor and the ambassador can answer some of your questions.
Libya, I've asked a lot of questions about Libya recently, but one is about the recent panel of experts report. First, sorry, I'm probably being dumb here, but the panel of experts reports to the Security Council. I'm assuming the Secretary-General gets a copy of each of those reports, though, does he?
I'm not aware that the Secretary officially that a report is officially given to the Secretary General until it is given by the officially handed over committee to the whole of the Security Council.
Well, the latest report, whether you have seen it or not, again makes numerous allegations of breaches of the arms embargo. So could we just have the Secretary-General's position on that again? He's said it so many times. You know, we had this coming together of all the nations at Berlin, and then they continued to flout the arms embargo. He said stop flouting the arms embargo. They're still doing it.
I think you've stated a fact, and this is something that we have spoken. The Secretary General has spoken out against repeatedly. That you cannot have more and more weapons, more and more armed men, I assume they're mostly men, pour into Libya. The people of Libya need peace. The people of Libya need their leaders to recommit themselves to the political process. And we need all the countries, whether in the region or beyond, who have an influence to support that political process. Now, we're seeing some good news. We've been flagging the talks have been going on in Egypt. So there are some movements in the right direction. But it is clear that we want to see an immediate and complete halt of the violations of the arms embargo. All right, Ibtisam.
Hi, Steph. My question is about Lebanon and the negotiation. Could you say a little bit more on the framework? Because as I understood from Americans, they are also going to be there. So which role are you going to play? Which role are the Americans are playing? And then is this negotiation going to be typical UN negotiations, like you talk to one party and then go and talk to the other party, or are you going to have the Lebanese and Israelis in the same room talking and you are there? Could you be more specific? Thank you.
To support the parties and facilitate the efforts. It is my understanding that the United States are in the lead on this. And as I mentioned, I expect a more detailed statement from the Secretary General to be coming shortly.
Would that include also details about the details of the framework? Like how do we expect, like if they are going to negotiate directly, or they will be in different rooms, or
my understanding. Yes, we'll try to get you a bit more information on that. Toby.
Hi, Steph. Good afternoon. I'm just hoping you could clue us in on the diplomacy that the Secretary General is engaged in now related to Nagorno-Karabakh and the conflict between Armenia and Azerbaijan. And has he spoken to President Erdogan of Turkey? Thank you.
No, I'm not aware of any direct conversations between the Secretary General and the President of Turkey. As you know, he spoke directly to the President of Azerbaijan, the Prime Minister of Armenia. We have also and are staying in touch with our colleagues at the OSCE. We believe that the parties should recommit to the Minsk process led by the co-chairs, and we are there to support those efforts. Okay, let's see if anything in the chat. Wave your hand if you have a question. Yes, Abdel Hamid, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Stéphane. As a follow-up to Toby's question, were there any other attempt or any contact after the Secretary General spoke with both the President of Azerbaijan and the Prime Minister of Armenia? And the Security Council issued a statement. So any follow-up to that initial contact?
Yeah, I mean, we have been staying in touch with the parties at different levels. But the initial discussions were initiated by the Secretary General, and he delivered the messages, which I've underscored here a number of times. Okay.
I have another question.
Yes, please.
Stéphane, on Gaza. Two things on Gaza. First, the humanitarian situation is reaching all-time low and dangerous. Would there be any kind of rescue operation to Gaza, especially that COVID-19 is spreading fast in Gaza? The second, a week ago, three brothers, and they were fishing with their boat in the Gaza Sea, and they came close to the Egyptian territorial water. They were shot at. Two of them were killed. One was severely injured. Was there any attention paid to that incident?
Yes, we're aware of. I think we're aware of the incident, which needs to be fully investigated, especially given that civilians lost their lives. On the general humanitarian situation in Gaza, I think Nikolai Mladenov gave a very detailed and rather bleak overview of the situation in Gaza in his briefing to the Security Council on Tuesday afternoon. And my OCHA colleagues are preparing an update, which I could have had today, but I think I will have tomorrow, on the situation, especially related to the virus outbreak and the situation with the COVID pandemic in Gaza. So I will have that for you tomorrow. All right. Sorry. Yeah, Ray. And then we'll leave you to Brendan.
Thank you, Stéphane. In a couple of days, there will be a UN conference about Libya, I guess, on October 5th. I just want to confirm the venue because some Libyan news outlets, they say it will be in Jerba Island in Tunisia. It's still virtual?
Yeah, I mean, people will participate from different places, so it will be virtual. No one is traveling to New York, as far as I'm aware, to attend the conference. So different parties will be participating from different places. My assumption is that the German foreign minister will be participating from Germany. The Secretary General will be here. And as I told James in the beginning, we're working on some type of a virtual stakeout for you afterwards.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, I will now leave you in Brendan's hands, and then the German, the Russian permanent representative, Mr. Nebenzia. Just don't tell him. Don't rat me out.